So it is advantage Dortmund after that first leg, an impressive 1-0 win at home last week. Do you fancy their chances tonight too?
They certainly have a great chance. That was a brilliant, win over them at home last week, and especially given that PSG had more than enough chances to score 2 or 3, especially in the second half as well. I think Dortmund will be incredibly happy with the result in that game. Going away to PSG is never easy in the Champions League. I know Barcelona got a result there, but otherwise I think they've only lost once at home this season in all competitions. But having said that, they are coming off that 5-1 win. They are well rested. Marco Reus, of course, has announced his departure at the end of the season, a Dortmund legend, and he got on the score sheet. So the feeling around the club is really good, and you'd expect Marco Reus to feature in some way on tonight. So yeah, I do think they have a good chance. Do I think they're favourites? I'm just not so sure. Like they beat PSG back in 2020 in the first leg and then lost to them away in the last 16 just before the pandemic hit. So history's kind of on PSG's side. I think PSG do have the stronger squad. Having said that, Lucas Hernandez is out, of course, long term after picking up that ACL in the first leg. Kimpembe's still to return. So PSG defensively can be got at. It's just that forward line is just so scary, isn't it? With Mbappe, Dembele, Barcola in great form, Vitinha behind them. Like, that's a lot for a Dortmund defence, which often hasn't been at its best this season to deal with.
A lot of talk about Jadon Sancho, Doogie, obviously, after the game last week. His future's still uncertain this summer at Manchester United, that's for sure. He got a rest at the weekend, as did the rest of them, by the sounds of it, in that win over Augsburg. How important will he be tonight? And what's different about him with Dortmund that perhaps he couldn't replicate at Old Trafford?
I think in terms of what's different for Jadon Sancho, it's just a club he feels the trust of the board, the trust of the fans. It's an environment he knows well. Of course, it was the club that gave him his first opportunity, having joined from Man City's academy. He was quite legitimately in with a shout of winning a Ballon d'Or in the future at one stage. He looked like he was not far behind Kylian Mbappe around sort of 2018, 2019 times. Of course, at Man United, it never went to plan. I think he struggled with the fact that he maybe doesn't have the express pace that's required at times in the Premier League, whereas in the Bundesliga, a little bit more space to pull out the tricks and flicks that he's so adept at doing. And he gave Nuno Mendes, who's one of the most highly rated left-backs in world football, who has had some injury issues, a really torrid time at the Westfalenstadion. But it was great to see him back to somewhere close to his best. And actually, I saw a lot of Man United fans sort of seeming a bit bitter about it on social media. I think it's great news for Man United, to be honest. Either they get back Jadon Sancho, a much more confident player, or they drive up interest for him this summer. And they've got a £73 million asset that they need to sell and get a decent chunk of that back if they are planning to do that for their PSR concerns. So if he plays well tonight, that's only good news for Man United.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Kylian Mbappe, and we can't talk about PSG against Dortmund without touching on Kylian Mbappe. His last chance in his final season to win the Champions League with PSG, James.
Yeah, and tonight will be his final European fixture at home for PSG before a likely departure in the summer. After 7 seasons, his legacy at PSG could hinge on what happens tonight and in a potential final at Wembley on June the 1st. And we know the Champions League is the trophy that Qatar Sports Investment have always craved above all else. And so far, they've fallen short. The closest they came was in 2020 when they lost to Bayern Munich in the final. But a couple of goals from Mbappe tonight, that would take him to 50 in the Champions League. And it could be enough to give him and PSG hope of a glorious farewell in the final at Wembley.
And they will be taking encouragement, will they not, from the second leg victory against Barcelona? And what does that do to a team? They know they've got sort of past good memories here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we speak about Dortmund having rest. PSG didn't even have a game on the weekend. So they'll come into this really, really fresh. I think the spirit they showed against Barcelona, even though that Araujo red card did kind of swing things in their favour a little bit, that spirit does exist in that team. And Luis Enrique, has had a great record in this tournament before, of course, masterminded, Barcelona's own comeback over PSG back in 2017, won the tournament with Barcelona in 2015. I think PSG have more than enough tools here to overcome Dortmund in the second leg. And the Parc des Princes on big nights can be a really, really intimidating atmosphere as well. It does feel advantage PSG still, despite them still being 1-0 down. It does feel like they are still favourites.
Yeah, absolutely. They also beat them at home in the group stage in the first game of this year's tournament as well, 2-0 with goals from Hakimi and Mbappe. PSG have scored in 24 consecutive home games, but they are coming up against the Dortmund side that I was quite surprised to learn have kept the most clean sheets in this year's competition with 5. Of course, they've played some more games than a lot of those teams that are still, they've had more opportunities to keep those clean sheets, but it does go to show that in Europe, at least, Edin Terzic's side have been a pretty different beast defensively. I thought Nico Schlotterbeck, in particular Mats Hummels, were exceptional in that first leg as well. You just don't feel like they're going to be able to keep Mbappe as quiet a second time round. You saw that against Barcelona. He came alive in that second leg. And in the end, yes, the red card was crucial, but he really did swing that tie in PSG's favour, who would become the first side to ever reach the Champions League final, having lost the first leg of their quarter-final and semi-final. So that's an interesting one to keep an eye on.